All right, the first match, Mike Von Erich, young Mike Von Erich, versus Jim Cornette managing Rip Oliver. Now, I know Rip Oliver was out of Pacific Northwest Wrestling. You probably don't know who didn't wrestle all the territories. There's so many. They worked in almost every territory. Now Jim Cornette, I did not know he managed more than. I know he managed a couple of different guys before the Midnight Express in Memphis, is where he started. Now I did not know he would manage more than one person, and he probably might manage many others in world class, but it's definitely the Midnight Express, Dennis Conrad, Bobby Eaton. Now. A very young Mike Von Erich. I'm not sure. I most likely this is probably before the first Toxic Shock Syndrome. Probably because I doubt he would have recovered from that to wrestle against Rip Oliver. Now, of course, we saw Mike Von Erich with a cast on his hand, and honestly, it's rare to see faces use cheating tactics. He actually whacked Rip Oliver in the head with it.
And though it's not the first time we have seen that in World Class Championship Wrestling, as we saw from the first show, so it could just be a trend that happens with this particular promotion and program, where the faces are allowed to do that more often.
No, Rip Oliver, I think he took most of the match, but a young Mike Von Erich, he overcame with the cast. Because what could Mike Von Erich have beaten Rip Oliver if he had not done that?
And that's just a question we may not know.
So we're going to our next match.
Yep.
All right. The Fantastics apparently have regained the upheld American Tag Team Championship in World Class. They had a simultaneous pin between them, but the Midnight Express versus the Fantastics, and Jim Cornette. Did it look like he was handcuffed to that 7 foot, 8 foot little John?
It was announced that he was handcuffed to him.
But I don't think
so. Though after the match, you can clearly tell he wasn't handcuffed to him. The highlight of that, of course, was Cornette hitting John,
and it broke the tennis
racket, and didn't do a thing to him.
And the thing is, with the ending of the simultaneous pin, is they did not explain how or if they were legal men in the ring. The two referees made the simultaneous count. But it was the second referee, I believe, that decided the Fantastics won. But he didn't how. But what we were talking about in the commentary was even without Cornette, the Fantastics and the Midnight Express can always have a great match. So similar to the Rock and Roll Express and Midnight Express. They're so similar, but their matches they can wrestle with all their particular their moves, but they're never, like you said, in order.
Yeah, they always change the variations how they do matches, so it gives the appearance of being a fresh match.
It's never a repetitive match that you can predict. One thing about, especially tag team wrestling in the territory days, especially Midnight Express Fantastics, including the rivals of Rock and Roll Express, you never know what these teams are going to do. They're fantastic tag team wrestling matches. You can always enjoy it. Even the Midnight Express, I think anything the Midnight Express worked with, whether it was Dennis Conrad or Stan Lane, you can enjoy. You can enjoy tag team wrestling in this time period because you never know. It's not predictable. You never know what these guys are going to do.
Exactly.
Now, this 12-man tag team match was,
very
by
unusual.
definition, wild. It was, honest to God, it's such a combination, like War Games without a cage. But the strangest thing about it, let alone how it's 12-man tag, best of 5 falls, there was $100,000 on the line with a Cadillac. The strangest part is seeing who teamed up with who. Yep. One side with the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, who are blood enemies, who are oh my God, they're hated rivals. That's the strangest thing to ever see team up.
And another one of the rare things was this was a best of 5 matches, which don't happen too often in the business.
Best of 5 falls.
Yeah, best of 5 falls.
Well, and see, even Jim Cornette was there. Gary Hart was there. The manager was General Skander Akbar. You only heard Cornette's name. Even Mark Lawrence said you didn't hear much from Gary Hart or Skander Akbar.
Yeah, it was surprisingly quiet.
Very quiet.
That was the unusual.
But how wild this match was. It is something that Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross said about. Tony Schiavone said during War Games, how do you keep up with something like this?
Which is why a couple of the pinfalls they couldn't even show.
Right.
and you had the Freebirds.
No,
you had the Freebirds and the Von Erichs.
I kept saying War Games.
They go down 2 falls to nothing. Then they won 3 straight falls to make the comeback to win the match.
It was a 6-man bunkhouse match
Yeah.
that Crockett had on TV, and it was Tony Schiavone that says, "How do you keep up with something like this?" This match was so wild. We couldn't tell at times who. You could see when the camera got close enough. You could see who was involved in the match, but we couldn't tell who on what side they were on. And 1 to 2 matches per team were going on. This is a downright crazy match. I don't know how these wrestlers even kept up of what was going on in themselves.
Yeah, because some of the falls, all 12 were in one ring, and some of the time it was 6 people in each of the 2 rings.
This was a downright wild match, hard to keep up with.
And despite all that, it actually had a good finish.
It had a great finish where Kevin Von Erich, you see, woo, and he flies over, he jumps over both ropes of both rings, and covering Steve Dr. That's Williams. And it was a great finish. But the whole match, it was it's similar to what Tony Schiavone said that how War Games looked great, but had a lousy finish. This is the other way around. Great match, wild match, hard to keep up with.
Just didn't look
good. It was hard to keep up with, but the finish was good. This was the reverse of War Games without a cage. Yep. So it was what it was. It was entertaining to watch, hard to keep up with, good finish. All right, we just finished watching Kevin Von Erich try to repeat history and take the NWA World Heavyweight Championship from Ric Flair. Great match, went 22 minutes. We were comparing that Kevin Von Erich reminded me of a kind of another Jimmy Snuka, bare feet, kind of muscular, very good wrestler in his own right. Who did you?
Well, from today's era, my first comparison was Matt Riddle for the same thing, for the bare feet, the mat ring ability, some aerial ability, and you could see how the marketability of it works even from then to today. So some things don't change, but I'm glad to see it's something that still continues on. So I get your comparison as well to Snuka.
Right, and Kevin Von Erich kept jumping to the top rope, doing flying body blocks, similar to Ricky Steamboat. And every time on commentary, every time Kevin Von Erich was going to get a pin attempt, the crowd popped. It was a hope, a dream that he would repeat Kerry's finish to win the title. But it was a really good match. It was an exhausting match. Not a bloody match. Here's the thing I also did during commentary. Ric Flair does his greatest matches when he loses the title. Yeah. And you think this match should have ended in a double countout? I was thinking a couple of days ago when we were planning on reviewing this match particularly, I think this match should have gone to 30, 45 minute, 60-minute draw. And having Kevin, I've seen this situation happen with a Ricky Steamboat Ric Flair match. As, say, Kevin Von Erich comes off a fly press, and the time limit goes 3, 2, 1, and the referee goes 1, 2, and missed by 1 second. I think that should have won. However, I think a riot would have occurred.
See, I wasn't upset with them having a double count out. I think they almost had it right, but then they messed up. I think the idea of having the claw on them and both tumbling outside was the right idea.
Yes.
But what should have happened was, instead of them fighting to get back in the ring, is that the tumbling out should have knocked them both out, and neither one could have continued.
Both should have been outside and so exhausted or so physically incapacitated.
Yeah, like the tumble hurt them.
They hit the floor. They hit something. Then where Mark Lawrence could say they're not moving. This is what's going. No, they're not moving, and the referee counts them out to 20. Oh, yeah. That would have looked better.
And speaking of which, what's the deal with a 20-second count?
20-second count. Well, World Class...
Which, by the way, only took 15
World
seconds.
World Class, you can lose the title on a disqualification. You have a 20-second count.
Which only took 15 seconds because that was one of the fastest counts.
The referee was counting that 20 count really fast. I mean, he was the 8-9, and he was going 7-8-9. I'm thinking, okay, I knew from the results of history that Kevin Von Erich and Ric Flair did wrestle the double count out. I'd never seen the match before, so I'm thinking, okay, but the referee is counting pretty quickly. They go to a 10 count. No, he's continuing. Okay, and Donnie said, oh, it must be a 20 count then. I knew they had 20 counts, but I didn't realize he was going to do it in this match.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a 20-second count until I heard 12. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is a 20-second count out.
Now the thing is, apparently that apparently Ric Flair or either Kevin didn't realize that the double countout was.
Flair didn't realize when he started crawling back.
The referee didn't. The referee did not explain this. Apparently, they were still fighting, and Kevin Von Erich kept applying the claw hold so long that his brothers Mike and Kerry, they kept pleading him, no, let go. And Kevin actually confronted his own brothers, says, back off. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to let go. Yeah. It took Daddy, Fritz Von Erich. You're going to kill him. It took Daddy to make him let go. I'm surprised they didn't physically pull Kevin off, whether it was for Daddy or do it or Kerry to do it. I'm surprised they didn't try to pry Kevin off. That would have been a much more camera scene. Whoa. But to see him confront his brothers, back off, I'm not going to do it.
In retrospect, though, it's also kind of haunting when you realize that's what Fritz said. You're going to kill him. And you're talking to the one Von Erich who's
still alive. But what do you think of it? It's similar to very historical matches that a time limit where they could have wrestled to a point that Kevin is going to get the attempt pin on Flair in 3, 2, 1. The time limit expires.
30-minute might have worked on it. I don't see 60 minutes because I don't think.
The fans couldn't have stand 60 minutes. Historically, on other shows, Fritz and others have done 60-minute matches, but it was late in the 60s and 70s. But do you think the crowd would have rioted if there had been a time limit draw and Kevin was almost at the pin? Had a pin.
I think the riot would have been if they had briefly given the belt to Kevin and then took it away.
A dusty finish.
Yeah. Which is what happened during the reversal of the tag match. If you did that where you took the belt away from Kevin, that would have been a riot scenario. I'm really surprised that the fans didn't boo at a double countout, that no matter what, Kevin has to win. You know, in many cities, like Bruno Sammartino, Hulk Hogan, these guys are not allowed to win. The fans would mass boo. I'm really surprised it wasn't a mass boo of 20,000 people. I'm really surprised. But this match, unfortunately, ends in the double countout, and Ric Flair remains World Heavyweight Champion. And Kevin is very pissed off enough that his own family had to talk him out of it rather than pry him out of it. Oh, man.
Okay, the second annual Parade of Champions ended with Kerry Von Erich versus the One-Man Gang. The stipulation was if Kerry lost, Fritz Von Erich would have to take on One-Man Gang at his old age. Yep. If One-Man Gang won...
If One-Man Gang had lost...
Gary Hart would have his hair shaved.
Yep.
And Fritz Von Erich was handcuffed to... Gary Hart, and they were arguing. Times you could catch Gary Hart; they were arguing at ringside. It was a good. Kerry Von was muscular. No, I questioned that when Kamal and One Man Gang had both splashed on top of each other, on top of Kerry Von Erich during that 12-man tag, and they said Kerry Von Erich, he was kind of injured. Well, he didn't seem injured in this match.
Yeah, there was no real signs of.
And One Man Gang was at his peak in world class, without a doubt. He was at his peak. Rough. He was mouthing off, and it amazes me at guys that size, 400 or 487 pounds. Yeah. It amazes me how fast and how well they move in the ring. A One-Man Gang, a King Kong Bundy, a Bam Bam Bigelow, Yokozuna. It amazes me how well they move in the ring at that kind of weight.
Yes, it definitely does. And the match itself involved one call hold that went out of the ring. Then you had a body slam from Kerry Von Erich that ended up being flipped by...
And that was a nice flip, but Kerry Von Erich had a pin attempt on he had body slammed One Man Gang. One Man Gang flipped it over, no pin, and that was a nice move on One Man Gang.
And the announcers had made it sound like that Gary Hart interfered causing that, but we honestly did not see Gary Hart at all, so it looked legit from...
Again, a similar thing that came... One Man Gang came off the ropes to kind of do a body splash on Kerry. Kerry moved, and when One Man Gang went down, Kerry grabs him for the pin. Now it took several wrestlers, Junkyard Dog, Brian Adidas, Kerry Von Erich, and Kevin Von Erich, and then they ended up having a handcuff One Man Gang, as Donnie said. He said, "I'm waiting for the handcuff to show up."
Which eventually did show up.
And wow, what was amazing was Fritz.
And then you had two wrestlers hold Gary
Hart and it shaved. It was a nice clean shave, similar to what happened with Paul Jones in the next year. And then One Man Gang, amazing. I thought One Man Gang was going to break those handcuffs, but he it
was a sign of it was an intelligent move.
Wow, he took his time, patiently,
Yep.
unbolt the turnbuckle.
Yep.
That was amazing. You don't see that in any territory does that.
Oh, yeah.
It
It
took
was
patience,
great.
and he did it. I'm surprised he didn't try to break the handcuffs. But it was Donnie said they had to end this, had to have a match with the Heroes, Kerry Von Erich over One Man Gang. Had a hero because of how the match between Ric Flair and Kevin Von Erich ended.
Yeah, there's two reasons. One, make the fans go home happy, and two, because you had the turnbuckle being uncut and loose.
It was a unique moment.
I'm not sure Flair would have agreed to have a match after that, or they would have had to go to the other ring.
Yeah. Overall, the show, even though it drew probably half the size, it was 40-some thousand in the first annual show.
And this was 20 to
25,000 the second show. And I said I would have subtitled it, "Can Kevin Repeat History?" And he did not repeat history. That's where Kevin was very angry. But overall, the show was an okay show.
Yeah, the first show was definitely the better of the two shows.
Without a doubt. In the second show, it was okay. It was, again, subtitle, "Can Kevin Repeat History?" No. I would think overall, all the matches were still very good. Even with the first show or the second show, matches were all very good.
Yeah.
The matches were overall good for what they were. And now we're going to review the third annual Parade of Champions.
Yep.